Greetings from the Louisville metro area of Kentucky. My name is Caleb Howland, and this is my project, my parable reenactment for the Life of Christ Davis Online Learning class. For my project, I have decided to retell the parable of the Bridesmaids via animated sequence created in Microsoft PowerPoint. A couple of things that we should probably get down before I begin is that a quick cultural note here. The parable of the 10 bridesmaids is set during a Jewish wedding, which had a lot of pomp and circumstance to do with it that you might not see in a wedding in Western civilization today. There are some similarities and differences. I will get to those a little later. But first, let's hear the story of the 10 bridesmaids. So once upon a time, there were 10 bridesmaids. Let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There they all are. Nice and pretty. They're all waiting for the bridegroom, this prince, to come in and marry this princess. The ceremony involved oil lamps. There they are. Additionally, 5 of the bridesmaids had thought ahead of time and decided to go buy some oil for their lamps. The other 5 figured, why bother? Yeesh, I mean, come on. Are our lamps really going to go out while we're waiting for the ceremony to begin? Well, it turns out that the groom was quite fashionably late for his wedding. And so while they were waiting, the bridesmaids got tired and fell asleep. When they woke up, they found that their lamps were going out, but the 5 foolish bridesmaids who hadn't gotten any oil decided to ask the 5 that did have some oil, hey, can we borrow some of your oil? And all 5 of them said, no, absolutely not. You're going to have to go into town and buy some oil. So that they did. They went, and they ran off to town to go get some oil before the wedding. While the 5 bridesmaids are in town, however, the groom arrives, and they all walk into the wedding ceremony, and it's a grand, festive occasion. The 5 bridesmaids get their oil, they come back, and they knock on the door. Lord, Lord, open the door, they ask. Access denied. But sir, we're your bridesmaids. We're here for the wedding. Access denied. I have no idea. Honestly, people, I have no idea who you are. And that, my friends, is what gets 5 bridesmaids denied access to the wedding of their friend to the groom. So now let's talk about this for a little bit. Our 5 bridesmaids in context, or excuse me, our 10 bridesmaids in context, describe the conditions of the people before the great day of the Lord. And I've selected 3 specific perspectives we should look at. And the very first one is the context of the setting. 10 of these bridesmaids have been preparing for this wedding all this time. So let's compare quickly some things in Western civilization that would parallel this wedding. Number 1, the ceremony itself is huge. Formal implications, dazzling dress, long celebration, guy and a girl are getting hitched, you know. But in contrast, whereas usually a wedding celebration will usually last 1 or 2 days here in our society, and then the couple will go off on their honeymoon typically, the wedding itself was a huge family affair. And generally the partying could last all week, really. And the bride-to-be was already legally promised anyway, due to the custom of bride price, or what we might call a dowry today. It had already been paid, so the bride and groom were technically already as good as married. However, this ceremony would formalize that marriage before everybody else, and then they would go and have their children. It's here I must add that the bride price, the dowry, was already paid, which in itself is an allusion to the reference of Jesus as the bridegroom, who will one day come after his own bride, the church. And he himself was the bride price by paying the sacrifice on the cross. And parts of the celebration are post-mortem revealed in the book of Revelation, where it talks about the marriage supper and the Lamb. But even that, we don't know what that will look like. But I digress. Let's continue on to the second perspective. The second perspective we should look at is the response to the low fuel crisis after the bridesmaids fell asleep. Or to be more precise, how they didn't react. So, as you may recall, 5 of the bridesmaids went and got oil ahead of time, and 5 did not. So, once the 5 bridesmaids found out that their lamps were going low, they just simply refilled it with the extra oil that they'd bought from the store. And the other 5 decided to appeal to the others because they had absolutely no oil. However, much to the foolish bridesmaids' dismay, the wise bridesmaids got turned down by the foolish bridesmaids got turned down by the wise ones. Now, this rejection of the extra oil must have shocked the 5 bridesmaids who had no extra oil, but it really only proves that whatever prompted the bridesmaids to neglect the provision that they should have made to begin with was that the 5 wise bridesmaids couldn't help their friends out. They would have to go and get their own oil. Is similar to how when you get saved, it's a decision that you have to make, not your family, your friends, your significant other, your spouse, so on, can make for you. And the final point we should look at is the groom himself, which of course we've already made the distinction that in one allegorical interpretation, the groom is Jesus himself. So when the groom gets there fashionably late, how many bridesmaids does he see? Well, technically he should be seeing 10, but he has no idea about the other 5 bridesmaids, so he only sees 5 bridesmaids. So they go in, they have the ceremony, it's amazing, and then the other 5 come back and they find that the door is shut. They pound on the door asking to be let in, and the answer is a firm no, because the groom has absolutely no idea who these 5 crazy girls are. But he clearly has absolutely no idea who these bridesmaids are, so he simply refuses to let them in. And now this shows that only those that Jesus the bridegroom knows will be a part of the final kingdom when the time comes for it to come upon the earth. There are 3 things that we can take away. The first thing is the answer to the question of when the great and terrible day of the Lord will be. And some have tried to speculate this. Probably the most famous person that's speculated it so far in our day and age has been Harold Camping, who once thought that Judgment Day would be 3 times, the most recent being the 21st of May in 2011. But date setting is a thing that Jesus not only didn't care about, he specifically warned against it. In fact, he specifically said, "Be ready, for you don't know the day nor the hour." The other thing is, we as believers need to be prepared for the event before it gets here, because once he comes, and this is the third part, anyone who sees and hasn't yet to believe will have no opportunity to repent of their sins and come to him. So rather than being a tale of when the day of the Lord will come, Jesus makes sure that his people parabolically understand, and of course they didn't, that the story is meant to show them that they should be ready regardless of whether it's the next second or 1,000 years from now. I'm Caleb Howland. Thanks for watching.